The story of America is often told as a tale of individual triumph. We hear about presidents and inventors, soldiers and entrepreneurs, but there's another story, one that runs parallel to the narratives of great men and women. It's the story of ordinary people, the workers who built this nation with their sweat and toil. This is the story of the American labor movement. For generations, working men and women faced brutal conditions. They endured long hours, unsafe workplaces, and meager wages. They were often treated as disposable cogs in the machine of industry. Yet, from these hardships rose a spirit of defiance, a collective determination to fight for dignity and fairness. This struggle was not about personal gain alone. It was about the very soul of America, about whether this nation would truly live up to its ideals of liberty and justice for all. The labor movement dared to ask, what good is freedom without the security of a fair wage, without the right to a safe workplace, without the power to negotiate for better lives? This is the story of their fight, a fight that continues to shape the America we know today. The roots of the American labor movement can be traced back to the early days of the Republic, when the nation was still finding its footing. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, skilled artisans like shoemakers and printers began to form guilds and associations. These groups were the first to recognize the power of collective action. These early organizations aimed to protect their trades, regulate apprenticeships, and provide mutual aid to members. They set the foundation for what would become a broader labor movement. However, the rise of industrial capitalism in the mid-19th century brought about dramatic changes. The landscape of labor was transformed as factories began to dominate. Factories replaced workshops, and large corporations began to employ vast numbers of workers. This shift created a new class of laborers who were often subjected to grueling conditions. These workers, often immigrants and former farmers, faced harsh conditions and had little bargaining power. They toiled long hours for meager wages, with few rights or protections. The exploitation of workers in factories, mines, and mills fueled the flames of discontent. Child labor and unsafe working environments were rampant. Workers began to realize that their individual grievances were part of a larger systemic problem. They started to see the need for a collective response to their shared struggles. They saw that by uniting and organizing, they could amplify their voices and challenge the power of their employers. This realization was the spark that ignited a broader movement. Out of this growing awareness, the first truly national labor organizations began to emerge. These groups sought to address the systemic issues faced by workers across various industries. The National Labor Union, founded in 1866, brought together diverse groups of workers, including skilled and unskilled laborers, farmers, and even some women. It was a groundbreaking effort to unify the working class. This marked a significant step forward, demonstrating the potential for a unified labor movement to challenge the status quo and fight for workers' rights on a national scale. The late 19th century witnessed a wave of labor strikes that shook the nation. Workers, fed up with intolerable conditions, took to the streets and picket lines, demanding better wages, shorter hours, and safer workplaces. One of the most significant of these early strikes was the Great Railroad Strike of 1877. Triggered by wage cuts and poor working conditions, the strike crippled rail traffic across the country. While the strike was eventually suppressed by federal troops, it demonstrated the growing power of organized labor and the deep-seated resentment towards industrialists. The Haymarket Riot of 1886, though marred by violence, further galvanized the labor movement. What began as a peaceful rally for an 8-hour workday turned into a deadly confrontation between protesters and police. The subsequent trial and execution of several labor activists, despite questionable evidence, fueled public outrage and solidified the image of labor leaders as martyrs for the cause. These early strikes, while often met with brutal resistance, forced the nation to confront the plight of its working class. They highlighted the growing disparity between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses, laying bare the social and economic tensions simmering beneath the surface of American society. The Haymarket Affair of 1886 stands as a pivotal moment in American labor history, marking a significant shift in the struggle for workers' rights. It began with a peaceful rally in Chicago's Haymarket Square, where workers gathered to voice their demands. Workers, advocating for an 8-hour workday, gathered to protest against police brutality during a previous strike, hoping to bring attention to their cause. As the rally drew to a close, a bomb exploded near the police line, killing an officer and injuring others, turning the peaceful protest into a scene of horror. The ensuing chaos resulted in gunfire, leaving several civilians and policemen dead, and the event quickly spiraled out of control. Although the identity of the bomber remained unknown, the incident sparked a wave of hysteria and anti-labor sentiment, with the public and media quick to blame the labor movement. 8 men, prominent labor activists with anarchist ties, were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder, despite scant evidence. Despite limited evidence linking them to the bombing, all 8 were found guilty in a highly controversial trial that many saw as unjust. 4 were hanged, 1 died by suicide in prison, and the remaining 3 were later pardoned, but the damage to the labor movement was profound. The Haymarket affair had a profound impact on the labor movement, shaping its future and the public's perception of labor activism. It instilled fear in the hearts of many, leading to a backlash against unions, particularly those associated with radical ideologies, and creating a more hostile environment for labor organizers. However, it also ignited a firestorm of protest and outrage, turning the executed men into martyrs for the cause of labor rights, and galvanizing support for the labor movement. The memory of Haymarket served as a rallying cry for workers, inspiring them to continue their fight for justice despite facing persecution and violence, and ensuring that the struggle for labor rights would endure. Throughout its history, the American labor movement has been shaped by courageous individuals who dedicated their lives to fighting for workers' rights. These individuals, often unsung heroes, worked tirelessly to ensure that the voices of the working class were heard and respected. These leaders, often coming from the ranks of the working class themselves, understood the struggles and aspirations of ordinary people. They knew firsthand the hardships faced by workers and were driven by a deep sense of justice and solidarity. Samuel Gompers, a cigar maker by trade, emerged as a prominent figure in the late 19th century. His leadership and vision were instrumental in shaping the direction of the labor movement during a critical period of industrial growth. He believed in a pragmatic approach to unionism, focusing on concrete gains like higher wages and shorter hours. Gompers' strategies were designed to achieve tangible improvements in the lives of workers, making the labor movement more appealing to a broader audience. Gompers founded the American Federation of Labor, a powerful union that brought together skilled workers from various trades. Under his leadership, the AFL became a formidable force in advocating for workers' rights and better working conditions. Mother Jones, known as the Miners' Angel, was a fiery orator and fearless advocate for coal miners and their families. Her passionate speeches and relentless activism inspired many to join the fight for labor rights. She braved dangerous conditions, facing down company guards and government troops to rally support for striking miners. Her courage and determination made her a beloved figure among the working class. Mother Jones's unwavering commitment to social justice made her an icon of the labor movement. Her legacy continues to inspire labor activists to this day. A new generation of leaders emerged in the early 20th century, each bringing their own unique perspectives and strategies to the movement. Eugene V. Debs, a charismatic socialist, championed the rights of all workers regardless of skill or trade. His inclusive approach aimed to unite workers across different industries and backgrounds. He helped to found the Industrial Workers of the World, a radical union that sought to unite all workers under the banner of industrial unionism. The IWW's bold vision and militant tactics set it apart from other labor organizations of the time. These leaders, each with their own unique approach, played a crucial role in advancing the cause of labor. Their diverse strategies and unwavering commitment helped to build a stronger, more unified labor movement. They organized workers, led strikes, and gave voice to the voiceless. Their efforts laid the groundwork for many of the labor rights we take for granted today. Their unwavering dedication helped to improve the lives of millions of working Americans. The legacy of these labor leaders continues to inspire and guide the ongoing struggle for workers' rights. The struggle for workers' rights was not confined to picket lines and factory floors. Labor activists recognized the need for legal protections to secure lasting change. They lobbied for legislation that would guarantee basic rights and improve working conditions for all Americans. The early 20th century saw the passage of several landmark labor laws. The Adamson Act of 1916 established an 8-hour workday for railroad workers, a major victory for organized labor. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, passed during the New Deal era, abolished child labor, set a federal minimum wage, and mandated overtime pay for certain workers. The National Labor Relations Act of 1935, also known as the Wagner Act, was a watershed moment in labor history. This law guaranteed the right of workers to organize and bargain collectively with their employers. It also created the National Labor Relations Board to enforce these rights and adjudicate labor disputes. These legislative victories were the culmination of decades of struggle and sacrifice by labor activists. They represented a significant shift in the balance of power between employers and employees, granting workers legal protections and a voice in the workplace.